Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Trump's DOJ is absolutely back on their bullshit. What do I mean by that? Now, trust me, I am going to be talking about yesterday's extremely important summit at the White House, where the seven major European leaders we talked about yesterday were backing Ukraine. I'm going to talk about that as well as the press conference, the one-on-one between Trump and Zelensky, and how absolutely off his rocker Donald Trump is and dangerous. But before I get to that, guys, did you even flippin' know that today, Tuesday, August 19th, today is the deadline? And DOJ is going to blow through it. They're going to stiff Congress. Today was the deadline. Today is the deadline for the Department of Justice to hand over unredacted Epstein files to the Congressional Oversight Committee, the House Committee. This is the deadline. And we just find out yesterday, and almost no one's talking about it because the airwaves have been filled with the presser and the debacle with Donald Trump. We'll get to that. No one's paying attention to that. The deadline's today. DOJ is going to blow through it and not share it, right? And they're going to let stuff trickle out on Friday. They think delay, dilute, slow down, deny, it's going to work, but it ain't going to work. It's not going to work. And on top of that, did you even hear that back on their bullshit, Bill Barr, Donald Trump's attorney general, one of his attorneys general, but the most dangerous one in the first Trump administration, the very guy who misled Congress and the American public about what was in the Mueller report. You might remember that dude. I can revisit that. But Bill Barr testified in a closed door deposition to that very same congressional committee yesterday. And you'll never believe it. You'll never believe it. Bill Barr said, and he parses his words. Now, I don't know what Bill Barr said, actually, because I only know what Comer and other people, Comer, who is the Republican chair of this House Oversight Committee and is in Donald's pocket, I only know what he had to say about it and other reporting. But what we get is very carefully parsed language that apparently Bill Barr doesn't think anything's amiss with the way Epstein died. It was just a perfect storm somehow that he had no roommate in the prison, that Epstein, all the cameras died. Complete coincidence. And he also chose his language carefully. He said that he had never, apparently said that he'd never discussed an Epstein list with Donald Trump. Well, there's no list per se. Epstein doesn't have a list saying these guys are all my clients. The idea of a list means, please give us the names, unredacted names of the over 100 people that we know are in the documents that have already been released, right? So saying that he never discussed the list or a list with Trump means nothing. And the third thing, which is crazy, they think we'll believe. Again, back on their bullshit. Bill Barr, Trump's a former attorney general, whose Bill Barr's father, is the one who gave Jeff Epstein his first job. When he was a college dropout, gave him his first job at the prestigious co-ed Dalton School, private school in New York. It was Bill Barr's father who gave him that job. And so yesterday, Bill Barr testified that he, again, what we're hearing, that he didn't see anything that would implicate Donald Trump in a crime. That means nothing. See. If you're a lawyer, you listen to words carefully. And if that's what Bill Barr said, he didn't see anything. Did he look at everything? Did someone tell him, brief him? Also, if you don't see anything that implicates Donald Trump in a crime, is that because Donald Trump, even if he were implicated in a crime, so long as that transpired before the sweetheart deal, is Donald Trump considered one of these pre-cleared, one of these no unnamed immunize co-conspirators. As far as I know, that's what Bill Barr is thinking. So let me unpack this for you. It means nothing for Bill Barr to have testified that he didn't see anything that would implicate Donald Trump. It means absolutely flipping nothing. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is clear. It doesn't mean that any of this is going to go away. So let me share with you the delay tactics. I'm going to share with you right now what Comer said in a press conference, just blowing through the fact that the DOJ was going to miss their deadline. Okay, let me share that with you right now. And here we go. I think you're ready for this. I think I got it.
Excited. This will be our first deposition.
Okay, listen to this.
Appreciate everybody being here today. We're very excited. This will be our first deposition in our bipartisan investigation into the entire Epstein Island saga. So we've got a lot of questions for former Attorney General Barr. I appreciate his willingness to come in, and hopefully this will be the first of many. I'll answer a few questions.
You set a deadline for tomorrow for DOJ to release the unredacted full Epstein file. Do you expect them to deliver on that?
Well, we're having really good conversations. You have to understand you can imagine how many documents there are. I think that we're going to have I think we'll receive the documents very soon. They're compiling everything together. I think we're working together in a good faith effort, and everything's coming along. I expect to receive the documents very, very soon.
Is that their explanation, though, that there's just so many documents that they can't meet your deadline?
Well, we always get that explanation in every investigation we've done in the 2.5 years I've been here. But I think that I'm confident we're going to get the documents.
I'm going to continue because there were some more questions, but I'm going to stop there for a second. This doesn't make any sense, because if we are to believe that someone actually thoroughly, such as Pam Bondi at the DOJ or Kash Patel, have looked through this and they know what's there because they've had 1,000 people look through these documents, then they must be available to share immediately. There's no reason why that shouldn't be hard. The only difficulty would be, are the victims' names redacted or not? If this is going to a congressional committee, they probably don't need to be. The DOJ was supposed to meet this deadline today, and now we're hearing they'll just let stuff trickle out. This is part of the cover-up. Now, I want you to also hear what Comer had to say about Bill Barr's testimony that he was hoping to hear from him. Let's play that. Let me just rewind this one bit. Let's go.
We'll see how it goes, but obviously the purpose of this deposition is on Epstein. And when we learn more, I'll be happy to come out and answer some questions. Thank you all for.
Okay. So the upshot of that, as I said, is vagueness. Jasmine Crockett, who's on that committee, is saying she has more questions than answers at this point. Of course she does. There is no way, first of all, a lawyer worth their salt could go into a deposition without an ability to spin if they wanted to. And that is what Bill Barr wants to do. And let me just remind you of what we're talking about here. I didn't like how Comer called it the Epstein Island scandal. This is a crime. It is a child sex trafficking ring, and that's what he should call it. And I want to remind you of what's going on here. This is Jeff Epstein in his skanky clothes that he wore to hit on teenagers with. And this is when he was hired by Bill Barr's father. The fact that Bill Barr can be considered any kind of authority at all is insane. And so again, This is what we know. This was reported in 2019 about Dalton. So at age 21, he did not have a college degree. Epstein taught math and science at Dalton for 2 academic years. And here we have a quote from the New York Times. Another student who also requested anonymity, fearing reprisals from Epstein, recalled seeing Mr. Epstein at a high school party in an apartment on the Upper East Side where students were drinking and socializing. Mr. Epstein was the only teacher there, which raised eyebrows among the students. I mean, you may also remember that Epstein died in prison and was, of course, a dear friend of Donald Trump. I don't think you need my reminder of that. Now, I want to tell you, this is not going away. So let me give you the status of that before I pivot to what is going on in the White House that tells us about the war in Ukraine. And it's all tied together, you guys, and the election. So first, let me do another screen share with you. Here we go. This is in the New York Times. And you can see the headline here. This is from yesterday. Republican bid to help Trump move past Epstein files falls flat. Republicans in Congress managed to recess for the summer without voting on the issue, but has continued to dog them and awaits them when they return. So just remember, even though the whole House has not voted that they want the Epstein files released to them, it kind of sort of doesn't matter because we know what DOJ is going to do with their stall tactics, because we actually have one House committee getting that information, right? And we see they're not actually getting it. But let's look at more of this article. Here I'm scrolling down, an article by Michael Gold, reading to you. When House Republican leaders rushed to leave Washington for a long August break, they seemed desperate to quell the anger among their supporters about the Trump. I want you to be able to see this. Sorry, guys. And I am going to drop this in the chat. I feel like you deserve that. Here we go. Okay, so let me look at that for you. Okay. So when House Republican leaders rushed to leave Washington for a long August break, they seemed desperate to quell the anger among their supporters about the Trump administration's backtracking on a promise to release files related to its investigation of the accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. But halfway through a 5-week congressional recess, the clamor shows little sign of quieting. While Republicans had hoped that legal rulings might insulate them from having to confront the issue, the courts have yet to intervene. Back in their districts, lawmakers have continued to face questions about the Epstein investigations from their constituents. And the Justice Department, which ignored a Friday deadline from Senate Democrats and is set to miss another Tuesday today to comply with a bipartisan subpoena to provide the materials to Congress, has yet to release anything. On Monday, Rep. James Comer of Kentucky, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, said the Justice Department would begin sharing its Epstein's records with his panel by Friday. He also suggested the release of the documents would take some time, all but ensuring that questions about the Epstein affair will drag on for weeks. Now, the thing is, I don't think the Times is quite getting it. Maybe the reporter gets it. Dragging this on is the lesser of two evils for Donald Trump, because there's something so bad in there about him or people who support him that he'd rather keep this in the news than release, because he can keep creating distractions. And let me pivot to Vladimir Putin, because I think these things are all connected. If you go with me on this, Donald Trump believes he is beholden to Vladimir Putin for winning the election in 2016. He thinks Putin is his friend. He also, right now, believes that Vladimir Putin is the key to him getting a Nobel Peace Prize, which he desperately wants. Now, let's go back to this. We have seen in the Mueller report hard evidence, one, that Russia did use all kinds of active measures in the US through social media, through their bot farms, the so-called Internet Research Agency. This is in the records. These are through indictments. You can actually look at the summaries in volume 1 and volume 2 of the Mueller report. That Russia absolutely intervened in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win. And it's irrefutable. 1, 2. Although there was not enough evidence to prove a conspiracy, an agreement with, for example, Donald Trump Jr., anyone in the Trump campaign, there was not enough evidence to prove it. A lot of these people refused to testify, right? There wasn't enough evidence to prove Donald Trump Jr. or Paul Manafort entered into an agreement with Russian actors to do this. Although there wasn't enough evidence of that, what there was evidence of was Russia's efforts, Russian agents and their active measures to interfere in the election. What there was also evidence of is Donald Trump engaging in obstruction of justice. This is in volume 2, in order to stop the true information about the Russian interference from coming out, right? That is why he had to pardon all those people like Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn and so on, right? To make sure, and also fired Comey, all of that. Bottom line is Donald Trump so badly wanted to win. Why did he want to win? Putin wanted to put him in place because, and we looked at this yesterday, the war in Crimea, right? Putin gets shunned. Putin gets kicked out of the G8 because of the invasion and annexation of Crimea. Putin wants all of Ukraine. That's a fact. He is humiliated by Barack Obama. He doesn't want Hillary Clinton to be president. She was Secretary of State under Obama. He wants Ukraine, and he wants his person put in office in the US to help him. Donald Trump is the useful idiot. Donald Trump already had relationships, was trying to build a relationship with Putin to build a hotel in Moscow. He already had met Putin when he hosted the Moscow, the Miss Universe in Moscow, right? He would love the idea of being president. Donald Trump thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. So motive meets opportunity. Putin wants not to have Hillary Clinton in office, would prefer Donald Trump to be in office and help stir things up to make that happen. Remember, Hillary won the Electoral College vote. I'm sorry, Hillary won the popular vote. Donald Trump won the Electoral College vote. So we know that Donald Trump wanted to win, and he didn't want anyone to think he got help from Russia because it hurts his ego. Plus, it doesn't help Putin. It puts the heat on Putin. That's what happened in 2016. When the Mueller report came out, and it was released to Bill Barr because special counsel Robert Mueller's team did that. Bill Barr, instead of releasing it all at once to the public, released a letter in which he described what was in this report. And it immediately, I knew by the language he was using that it was much more damning than the way the news media picked it up. They picked it up with the spin of Donald Trump is clear, no collusion, no Russian interference. That was not true. On top of that, when it finally came out, the news media had moved on. But Robert Mueller, at the end of July, testified before Congress and said, not only did Russia interfere in the election, but Russia is probably meddling now. Now, people didn't focus on the words that came out of Robert Mueller's mouth because he's older. He spoke extremely slowly. And that was the focus on his appearance and his delivery. The day after his testimony, I was on Ari Melber's show, and I focused on what Mueller was saying. That very day in July of 2019, or like the next day after Mueller's testimony, what was Donald Trump doing? He was on the phone. He was on the phone with the newly elected president of Ukraine. I think you know where this is going. I'm just telling you the story. He was on the phone with the newly elected president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, who is dealing, because now we're in 2019, now Russia is still at that border we are talking about, at that eastern border and the Donbas region. And, you know, it is, and he also has, remember the way Putin was able to take Crimea was to put these little green men, so to speak, these Russian agents, these Russian paramilitary people in there. So Volodymyr Zelensky, this populist president, popular because he was a comedian, super smart, he is elected. And Trump, and he desperately needs more weapons from the United States. And so Trump gets on the phone with him, and there's all this background about this. You can watch the first impeachment hearings testimony for that, right? You can watch the congressional investigation testimony from people who worked inside the Trump White House. You can hear it from people you wouldn't even expect. We watched this. I'm just reminding you. And what did Donald Trump want more than anything? He wanted to stay in office. Go with me. It's 2019, and he knows there's an election a year from now, and he wants to win a second term. And he knows the biggest front runner is Joe Biden. He wants to destroy Joe Biden. He said, something to the effect of, can you do something for me, though? You know, you want these weapons. And what he wanted, and he claimed it wasn't a quid pro quo, but he wanted Volodymyr Zelensky to find a microphone and claim that Joe Biden was corrupt. He wanted that more than anything. And Zelensky stood his ground. And that's how this stuff eventually leaks out. This is in 2019. I'm just telling you, remind you. In early 2020, there was the impeachment, the House impeached, but the Senate did not convict on this whole trying to bribe Zelensky. That's what happened. And remember, it's tied to two things. Donald Trump wants to stay in office forever. He wants to be president forever, one. And two, Putin wants Ukraine. These are intersected plans. Okay, are you with me so far? You might remember in 2020 when Joe Biden won the election, Donald Trump did not want to leave. What did he do? He got involved. He helped orchestrate in two different dimensions an insurrection, a conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 371. That's part of what he was charged with, to defeat a lawful, it's called the conspiracy to defraud the United States. It means to engage, to agree with another person to engage in an effort to defeat a lawful function of government. Meaning, translate that, Donald Trump was working to get fake electors. That was one plan. He was pressuring people like in Georgia to make up votes so he could make sure the Electoral College, when they reported in December, because he lost the election in November, but the Electoral College process was still playing out. He was still trying to interfere with that. Georgia, find these votes. He was trying to target places, right? That's one ground. The other ground was telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, something he had said at the debates, but also they'd done a dry run through about having these protests. It was Stop the Steal. He helped that movement. They had that giant Stop the Steal rally on the day the votes were supposed to be counted. He was separately also, the third path was to pressure Mike Pence to refuse to count the votes. Why? Donald Trump wants to stay in office, right? That's what happened. And he never called in the National Guard. He never used force to stop these people from attacking the Capitol. They are shouting, hang Mike Pence. They were defecating in the hallways. They were smashing windows. And not only did he not stop it at the time, but he tried two tactics. He said, that's the left. That's Antifa. It wasn't. And then later he pardoned those people. You know that. After all the prosecutions of over 1,500 people, even the most violent people, he either pardoned or commuted their sentences, and they're all free. Why? Because Donald Trump wants to reward people who use violence or any means necessary to help him stay in office. Who does he tell to hit the road? Mike Pence, his vice president, who wouldn't put up with it. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's all connected. Donald Trump will do anything to stay in office. He says he now wants to run for a third term. He's always said he wants to be like Xi or Putin. Wake the fuck up, people. And so, of course, when it comes to the Epstein files, this stuff gets in the way of his possibility of staying in office forever. It's also probably, we think that MI6 and other intelligence agencies know this stuff. At least they know about Prince Andrew. But what is Donald Trump's involvement? Why does he know that his name is now in the files, as Pam Bondi has said? Why does he want nothing to do with these files? Somehow, he believes it interferes with his ability to get elected. Whether or not there is information in those files directly implicating Donald Trump in crime doesn't really matter, because there are people in there who are. And it's all a game of hot potato a little bit, because Donald Trump has stuff on some people in there. And if he blows that out and shares that, they will bring him down. That is what he is afraid of. Okay? Donald Trump wants to win the election again. How do I know this? Well, it comes up yesterday when the European leaders were there, when Zelensky was there. Do you see what's going on here? Now, how does this all come together once again? It comes together once again because Donald Trump is seeking counsel with Vladimir Putin on what he should do to make sure he wins the election, to make sure he believes he can secure the House and the Senate next year, and also to win again in 2028. That's on his mind. That is on his mind. And how do we know this? Because he said it. It is all connected. Now, on that front, this is my pivot, guys. Let's talk about what went down yesterday. It was insane in that, let's just start from the beginning. Donald Trump this weekend, on Friday, when he met with Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil in Alaska, they met on the tarmac. And what did they flip and do? They had our U.S. military on their knees at the bottom of the stairway as Vladimir Putin gets off his airplane, and they rolled out a red carpet for him. Right? Remember that. Also remember, as soon as the press asked Putin a tough question, press conference ended before the meeting. Afterward, when they had a press conference, Putin spoke first in Russian, and second, there were no questions allowed. That should tell you something. And finally, Trump got nothing out of that. All he said that was positive is that Putin told him that he would have won the election if there hadn't been mail-in voting. And Putin said that if he'd been president, then Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. Well, that's nonsense. That's flippin' nonsense. But that's what Donald got out of it. Why? Because those are the ingredients that he wants to stay in office. Now let's compare it to Zelensky. Zelensky's car pulls up to the White House yesterday. Right up to the door. No red carpet. Donald did greet him with a kind of pat on the back, parental or whatever. That happened. There was a press conference, and when the press asked tough questions of Zelensky, it wasn't called off. Okay? Let's start. Let's start with one of the questions, and I'm getting to the heart of this. One of the very good questions that Donald Trump was asked by the press at this batshit crazy press conference, during which Donald Trump spent the bulk of the time talking about how he was going to get elected again. No problem that the Constitution doesn't allow a third term. No problem. No one asked that, because he has stacked the press with people who won't push back. So here is the best question. I'm going to tell you a bit, so I hope you can hear this person. She's asking, how are you going to end this war? What are the root causes, right? Because that's how you would figure out how to resolve a conflict. Let's listen to that.
Mr. President, Vladimir Putin mentioned that addressing the root causes of this war, have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look,
Okay. Do you have an understanding of what the root causes of this war are? Really important question. He begins with, well, look.
The war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, you know, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one.
Vladimir Putin mentioned.
Okay, hold on 1 second. He says, I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this would be the easiest one. No one calls him out on that. He has not ended 6 wars, people. He says this over and over again. Again, why is he saying this? He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump wants 2 things, a Nobel Peace Prize and to be reelected. Let's continue.
Had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, you know, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one.
That's crazy, right? Now, along these lines, he was also asked about the ceasefire. And now he's like, well, maybe, you know, who needs a ceasefire? Because people break ceasefires on both sides. Yeah, no, that's implication. No, it was Putin who breaks a ceasefire. So ceasefire was the plan. Let's listen to a reel from CNN proving to you that his focus was ceasefire in Ukraine.
On a major sticking point that echoes Russia.
And I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not too distant future. I want it to end immediately. I want a ceasefire now. Pretty soon have a full ceasefire.
He has made it clear to both sides that he wants to see a peaceful resolution and a ceasefire as soon as possible.
I'd like to see a ceasefire. I want to see a ceasefire. I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight.
So that was yesterday. We don't need a ceasefire. They have to fight. That is really, really a changed tune. So Donald Trump doesn't care about root causes. He just wants a result or the appearance of a result so he can claim that he is a great man. Now, one of the most important things that what Volodymyr Zelensky wants out of this and what the European Commission and the representatives that we talked about who were here, the European leaders who were here that we have already talked about from England, from Italy, from Finland, from Italy, from Germany, from Finland, from France, from NATO, and from the EC, right? Those leaders, plus Zelensky, all 8 of them, they want security guarantees from the United States and the European Union, security guarantees that if after a ceasefire, after a settlement of this war, that if Putin does not abide by his agreement, that he will be given arms. Not only that, but that an attack on Ukraine would be the equivalent of an attack on Europe, and they can fight back against Russia. That is what he wants in terms of security guarantees. So, of course, Donald Trump is asked about that. So let's listen to the Putin talking points he gives about this. Lots of passive voice and lots of bullshit.
Decision to offer Ukraine Article 5 like security guarantees, but stop short of pushing for their full membership.
Yeah, well, we haven't done anything on that yet.
Okay, so if you heard that, he said, has there been an agreement on offering Ukraine Article 5-like security guarantees, but stopping short of having Ukraine join NATO? And he's like, well, we haven't done anything to that effect.
That yet. If you look back and you go back long before President Putin, it was always a statement that they would never allow Ukraine into NATO. So that was.
Okay, that's not true. There is on record, and I've watched it, in 2001, Putin saying he was fine with Ukraine joining NATO. So, history doesn't matter.
A statement that was made, but we haven't discussed any of that yet. We're going to be discussing it today. But we will give them very good protection, very good security. That's part of it. And the people that are waiting for us, they are, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out also.
Okay, the people that are waiting for us, the leaders, the 7 leaders I spoke about. Now, Donald Trump spent a lot of time defending himself. So let's hear this crazy thing before I get to the voting piece. Donald Trump is claiming, when he is asked, that everything's fine in DC, despite the fact that it's not martial law, but there's armed troops in the streets. He actually says the following.
What you've done is incredible.
Oh, this is one of his sir stories, that people are calling him on the phone, and maybe they are, right, to suck up to him, telling what he wants to hear. He claims there are people calling him saying they've never been to a restaurant in DC for years. Now they've gone and it's finally safe. Let's listen to him.
What you've done is incredible. And I think the people realize it. But the press says, he's a dictator. He's trying to take over. No, all I want is security for our people. But people that haven't gone out to dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2 years are going out to dinner. And the restaurants the last 2 days were busier than they've been in a long time. Thank you.
I walked around yesterday with MTG. If you can walk around with DC with MTG and not be attacked, the city is safe.
Yes.
If you can walk around the city with MTG, does that mean Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't know. But restaurant reservations are not up. They're down. And he could have found that out by, let's look. I'm going to share with you. I don't know if you ever use Open Table. A lot of restaurants use these platforms to make reservations. Let me share this with you. Guys, I always like to bring the receipts. So here we go. Are you with me? Reservations. Oops, I want this, close this ad. Reservations plunge across DC restaurants after police takeover. Online reservations dropped more than 25% in the days following President Trump's announcement that he was federalizing DC police, according to Open Table data. What do you think of that? What if I share this with you, okay? What if I flip and play this for you? Oops, I think I've got to get the...
His unprecedented takeover of the city's police department. And according to Open Table, dining reservations fell by more than 25% in just the last few days. This after nearly a year of steady improvement for the industry. And it all comes as restaurants are preparing for one of their biggest weeks of the year, Summer Restaurant Week. And joining us now to talk about it is Sean Townsend, president of the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. Sean, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we've talked with some bar owners. They told us this past Friday was the worst ever. So what are you hearing from restaurant owners and operators right now about the drop in diners?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing some of the same from operators around the city. And, we know that it's coming at a critical moment where, Restaurant Week is one of the biggest weeks of the year for restaurants, but it's also the slowest month of the year, which is why we host Restaurant Week. And so, today's the first day of Restaurant Week, and we are asking all of our residents here in the district and throughout the region to continue to support restaurants. And I think the strongest stance that we can take as Washingtonians, as folks who live in the DMV, is supporting restaurants in this critical moment.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Support restaurants. So the deal is, Donald Trump will say anything to make himself look good. He wants to declare victory and win again. That is his goal. Now, speaking of winning again, this is something that I was watching and I was shocked in so many ways. Let me play this. Let me play this for you. It is it's wild.
We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt. You know, when you go to a voting booth and you do it the right way, and you go to a state that runs it properly, you go in. They even ask me. They ask me for my license plate, for identity.
He just said when he goes in to vote, they ask him for his license plate for identification. So does he go pry the license plate off the beast and bring it in? Dude doesn't even know the difference between a driver's license and a license plate. You might think he misspoke. He didn't speak. No one asked him, "Sir, can I have your driver's license?" That just doesn't happen. Let's continue.
If I said, I don't know if I have it, they said, "Sir, you have to have it." I was very impressed, actually. But it's very hard to cheat.
So he goes on to talk about how he's going to get rid of all mail-in voting. And he's going to sign an executive order, he claims, and he's got all these great lawyers drafting it so he can interfere in state elections. It kind of gets a little worse from there, and I've got some things that get a little better. But one thing Donald Trump also tries to say here is that, let me just play this for you, and then we'll talk on the other side.
Peace, God willing, we get peace. Are you open to holding an election in your country?
Yes, of course. We are open for election, yes.
Okay, so the question is asked, they're obsessed with this, that Volodymyr Zelensky, who was duly elected in 2019, has not held elections. Why? Well, because in 2022, he was attacked on his own soil by Russia. This is a major offensive. You know what's going on there. So what does Donald Trump do? Immediately thinks of himself and winning again. Listen to what he says. It's fucked up.
We have to do safety circumstances, and a little bit we need to work in the parliament, because during the war you can't have elections, but we can do secure.
He wants secure elections, right? He said during the war they can't have the election, so it's been 6 years since the last election. It'd be good if they don't have the same system we do with the Constitution that establishes when their elections. I'm not sure what their Constitution says. I'm not sure what their process says and how Parliament works in this way, right? He's the president of Ukraine, not the prime minister, so they've got that kind of system similar to France. I am not an expert, guys, on how Ukraine operates. I will tell you, it takes a lot of fucking audacity for the press to ask Volodymyr Zelensky, if he's going to have an election when Vladimir Putin has not had an honest election in decades. Let's go.
We need, we need a truth, yes, everywhere, in the battlefield, in the sky, and the sea, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections?
If we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections. What a douchebag. So many levels. If there was a major attack on U.S. soil, God forbid, I hope he's not fucking inviting that. Yeah. On election day, we'd be screwed. Okay? Is that what he's inviting? Or is he just saying merely at war? It's some sort of international adventure, some sort of invasion here or there. he'd call off the elections. This is how his mind works.
Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake
You
news
like
is
this
gonna
idea?
say.
No.
Speaking of news, I got a
He thinks it's so funny. It's not a joke. Donald Trump's priority, and I'm going to repeat it again, is this: to get reelected and to win the Nobel Peace Prize and to make himself look great. That is his goal. He wants a Trump dynasty from now until the end of time. He wants to be like Xi. He wants to be like Putin, and he wants to be like North Korean leader Kim Jong-un with the love letters they exchange. This is in the wide open. This is who he is. Guys, it's right here in front of us. Okay, so may I offer some commentary on this? Sam Cedar, such a great commentator on CNN with Abby Phillip, talks about this mail-in voting deal.
Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms for those Republicans. Plus the fact that he has no authority to do this. I mean, he tried to pass he wrote up an executive order a couple of months ago to deal with the voting, and he got shot down by 2 different federal judges. So there's really there's no path for him here, and it's sort of fascinating that all it takes is one suggestion from Putin. I mean, what were they doing talking about 2020 during these meetings? Like,
bingo,
he's like a cat. It's like no object permanence here.
Where were the staff?
So I love Sam, but it's not no object permissivity. He's like a cat. This is his sole focus. It's all connected. And this thing about Donald Trump not having a path in court doesn't fucking matter. Do you know who his vice president is? J.D. Vance. Do you know who his vice president is not? It is not Mike Pence. So Donald Trump is attempting to sow doubt on the validity of mail-in ballots. Just like he did in 2020, he's running the same play. This time, he plans to win because he plans for J.D. Vance to throw out the ballots, reject the Electoral College. And then what will happen next is, I think each state, I don't remember exactly how it works from there, maybe each state gets a vote. That system, if he does that, would result in the coup that Donald Trump failed at last time. Remember his first time around, he failed at mass deportations. Now he's doing it. His first time around, he failed at the self-coup. He is planning to do it. And what's in it for J.D. Vance? I don't know. Donald Trump may not make it through his 3rd term, and J.D. Vance gets to be president. That is the fucking plan. How will they change the Constitution to allow him on the ballot? I don't know. But when he decides he's running, and there are challenges to his eligibility, we're facing that Supreme Court decision that says Congress needs to actualize that amendment, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. They're going to say that. I mean, we're fucked unless we get Congress to deal with that. If I were in charge, if I were Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries, I'd be hell-bent on getting legislation to make clear under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that no one who has been president can be on the ballot. And no one who's been president twice can be on the ballot. Get that legislation passed, and we'd be good. Where are they talking about that? Where is the big strategy? Why does no one get this? People get this. I'm not the only one. People who get it are on the left in the Democratic Party. And I think that the centrists are so interested, are just clueless, and are interested in dealing with their donor base and sending us a barrage of texts, even if it's from these questionable PACs, not stopping that, just asking for money. No penny. I'm not giving any penny to the Democratic Party, only to candidates I like, because they are fucking incompetent. Why isn't there one of them on the air saying what I'm saying, that it's all connected? Nothing is a distraction from Epstein. The Epstein piece and the Ukraine piece are all tied to Donald Trump wanting to steal the election, to cover it up. Remember, his conviction, when the jury found him guilty of 34 felony counts related to business falsification, it was a felony because it was falsifying business records, namely in connection with the Stormy Daniels cover-up, to interfere in the election. Donald Trump has already been convicted with covering up sexual, embarrassing activity to win an election. Why the fuck wouldn't he do it again? I don't know what planet I'm living on. The people don't see this. Okay. Now, this is amazing. I want to remind you who he was in the meeting with, these European leaders. Oops. So we had Keir Starmer of the UK, Giorgia Meloni of Italy, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Finnish President Alexander Stubb. I called him Stubb yesterday, sorry. French President Emmanuel Macron, NATO Secretary Mark Rutte, and European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen. I want you to know something. Whew. People who mispronounce names or words are often people who read more than they watch television. Keep that in mind. Okay, now, here is Keir Starmer. Here's who was there. UK. Giorgia Meloni, Italy. I'm going to say this is Friedrich Merz, Germany. We've got, right here, we've got Stubb from Finland. We've got Macron from France. There is the smiling Rutte from the NATO security, head of NATO, one of the leaders of NATO, I should say. And then we have Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission. And of course, Volodymyr Zelensky. This is who was there. Okay, so let's remind you that, and I want to show you a clip that I was able to see where I think Donald Trump was actually high or has no fucking idea what's going on. This is Ursula von der Leyen speaking specifically about the children, close to 20,000 of them who have been abducted from their homes, from their parents in Ukraine, and are being raised by Russian parents, and she wants them all returned. So she asks Donald Trump about this. Let's play it.
Every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine, to their families.
Thank you. And we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So that's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much, Ursula.
What? We made the largest trade deal in history? How is that responsive to returning Ukrainian children home? I have no idea how he doesn't know this, because at the beginning of the earlier press conference, one of the first things Zelensky did, Volodymyr Zelensky, was to hand to Donald Trump a letter that Zelensky's wife had sent to Trump's wife, to Melania. Why did she send a letter? Because Melania had earlier written a letter to Zelensky's wife saying how concerned she was for the children of Ukraine. Donald Trump sees this letter and said, oh, I want to keep it. Doesn't pay attention to the content, doesn't care. The man doesn't care about children. Now, I've got a couple last things before we do Crazy Town. Donald Trump has no idea who's at this meeting. He's looking at someone's name, probably spelled phonetically for him, because anyway, looking at someone's name and doesn't know he's in the room. Let's go.
President Stubb of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here? Huh? Where? I'm right here. Oh, you look better than I've ever seen you look. But
he was sitting right across from him. Doesn't recognize the guy. Now, I know some people don't recognize faces, but, guys, there were only 7 new people. I mean, some of them he already knows. Now, Stubb from Finland spoke at a press conference after, I believe, and he said, people may wonder why the president of a small country, of Finland, would be here. And he's like, because Finland shares 800 miles of border with Russia. That's why he was there. But Donald Trump not understanding that that's a critical person that he should get his eye on and look at. He's a terrible, terrible politician. And, okay, a couple more things. This will cheer you up. This is Elise Stefanik of New York in her home district, a adamant Trump supporter getting booed. Let's play that. We need a little endorphins.
Congresswoman from New York 21, Elise Stefanik.
There was a call for Stefanik to hold a town hall, echoing through the crowd.
Okay, you get the idea. Now, let us go to, it's time, I think. Yeah, it is time for full Crazy Town. I got 2 scoops of Crazy Town for you. So, oops, let us play the song We Need It. Okay. So, yeah, 2 scoops of Crazy Town first. You know how much I'm loving my Gavin Newsom mocking Donald Trump. You have seen these, you've seen these mocking, you've seen them, right? Let's remember, Gavin Newsom writing these all caps tweets, mocking Donald Trump, using his language. We've seen it. It's successful. Wait till you hear Dana Perino on Fox News trying to warn Newsom that it's unbecoming. Let's play it.
Or at the debate. The other thing for me is that for the last week, Gavin Newsom, why am I giving him advice? You have to stop it with the Twitter thing. I don't know where his wife is. If I were his wife, I would say, "What? You are making a fool of yourself. Stop it. Do not let your staff tweet. And if you're doing it yourself, put the phone away and start over. And if he's got a big job as governor of California, but if he wants an even bigger job, he has to be a little bit more serious."
I can't even believe it. Who do these people think we are? I mean, really? Okay. Okay. So one more scoop of Crazy Town before we go. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent trying to put lipstick on this pig.
Will likely be a bilateral meeting, and then perhaps one that includes President Trump. Is that where things stand right now?
Well, Joe, let's go all the way back to Friday, because I want to set the record straight on what went on in Alaska. Alaska was a show of force by President Trump. He invited President Putin to land that the Russians used to own. He displayed a huge amount of military hardware and then did a flyover. It was kind of like inviting your uncontrollable neighbor to your house and showing him your gun case. So then the President Zelensky, we had a very good meeting with him and his team in the Oval for about an hour and a half. And then we met with the European leaders. It was an incredible group to have in the White House, all led by President Trump. And yes, the culmination of that was a call with President Putin and my strong belief is that there will be a bilateral meeting.
Okay. He is not giving you the full truth. Donald Trump did not call Vladimir Putin after the meeting. Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin while in the middle of the meeting with the European leaders and spent 40 minutes on the telephone with Putin. 40 minutes. And then I just want to confirm it was 40 and not 20, because that's a number I remember. Yes, 40-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin. Okay, and then went back and started talking again. Who is his handler? Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump was also caught on the hot mic saying, I really think Putin wants to get a deal from me. Here's the deal. It doesn't matter if there is a bilateral meeting between Ukraine and Russia. I heard Mike Muffall talking on MSNBC, and I thought it was really smart yesterday, saying there's two different things going on. There's a negotiation that Zelensky and Putin need to make about which parts of the Donbass maybe Putin can keep. And Putin wants the parts that he's not even occupying. That seems like a non-starter. Probably Zelensky wants all of it, but they've got to figure that out. Okay? Separately, though, unrelated to them, Europe and the US need to decide whether they're going to give the Article 5 like security protection. That's not up to Putin, and it should not be. So, guys, that's where we are. It's all tied together. Thank you. I should say thank you for listening to my TED Talk. It's not my TED Talk, it's my Gen Talk. And with that, have a beautiful Tuesday night, and I will see you bright and early Wednesday morning.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Talk Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Talk Show. Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Talk Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Talk Show.